Happy Sunday and welcome everyone to episode 32 of Video Game Club. As always, I'm your host Tyler, and I have with me today the janitor who is plastering walls, Austin.
Ugh.
And it would not be a Video Game Club episode without the one and only Ayumi's best friend, Mox.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
Hello, Mox. How are you doing today?
Great. How about you?
Good. I would ask Austin, but I feel like I kind of know from his reaction there.
Well, I look to him.
As a reminder, the nominations for this episode that were suggested by Mox included Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind, Apotheon, and Simulacra. And yeah, Famicom Detective Club, of course, won. But before, oh my god, save it for the end. Save it for the end. Before we dive into that, what have you all been playing besides this wonderful game, Austin?
I haven't really been playing much of anything. I've been just real busy with the bundle. I did finish up Framed Collection from the bundle yesterday, and that was a nice short little treat.
Nice.
But other than that, not a whole lot.
Any more progress on Wind Waker?
Nope. I've been too busy playing another terrible game.
Wait, what do you mean another?
Right there with you.
This one.
I mean to say that implies that the Wind Waker.
I have not had fun with Wind Waker so far.
Oh.
He only played the beginning, but
yeah, only the beginning. I'm at the point I'm about to get the sale for the boat.
It gets so much better after that. Then you get
Well,
to sail around.
that's great, but so far it's been really bad.
Oh.
Mox, what about you?
Genshin Impact and Final Fantasy XIV are the only games that exist.
I just got Final Fantasy XIV on vinyl, a box set.
Which
Ooh.
one? Which set? Like from what expansion?
I think it's a collection from everything so far. It's like a 4 LP box set. So it's not all the music, but it's a
selection.
Selections.
Yeah. It's pretty massive too.
Yeah.
It looked like pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like everything. As I open it up, like each one is just like, ooh, look at all the detail they put in on here. Very
it's
good.
so much better if you played the game.
I have played the game, and I still prefer Final Fantasy XI, but you know,
that's a sad thing.
Final Fantasy XI fans be like that though.
I mean, you know, it was a game that was more respectful of your time.
Yeah, that's fair.
What? What?
Anyway, moving on. I've been playing a lot of games for Game Pass, which has been a good time. And I started playing God of War again because Ragnarok got another trailer, and I'm like, I want to play it. I know it's good, and I enjoyed the time I spent with it, but I'd never finished it, so I started playing more of that, and yeah, it's good. It's a good game. So, as I mentioned before, this is Video Game Club, where every 2 weeks we discuss a game voted on by our wonderful friends in the Bombchu Discord, and discuss that game right here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV. And if you can't catch us live, no problem. Don't worry, you can find us on YouTube and all major podcast services. Just search Bombchu Video Game Club, and the gods will present it to you. Now, let's jump into our game, Famicom Detective Club, specifically The Girl Who Stands Behind. It is a prequel to The Missing Heir, which was released before The Girl Who Stands Behind. So they released The Missing Heir, and then they released a prequel, The Girl Who Stands Behind. This game is a visual novel, point-and-click adventure game. And we played the remake, but we're gonna talk about the original. Kind of similar to how we did with Katamari. But
this
it was
is like the third or fourth remake, by the way.
Yeah, and we'll also dive into that as well. But this was the original was developed and published by Nintendo, released originally in 2 parts, and on May 23rd, 1989, and June 30th, 1989, on the Famicom Disk System in Japan only. So when I say 2 parts, I mean like The Girl Who Stands Behind Part 1 and The Girl Who Stands Behind Part 2. Yes. So what was going on in 1989 in gaming? Well,
what was? My goodness.
I hadn't been born yet.
I had also not been born.
Wow.
Mox, were you born?
No.
No. We were all not born. But the TurboGrafx came to the US.
What's TurboGrafx?
The TurboGrafx 16?
I don't even know.
PC Engine goes under some different names.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you've ever heard of Castlevania Rondo of Blood.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, that's a TurboGrafx game.
Oh,
PC
wow.
Engine.
Yep. Atari Lynx. Sega Genesis was released in the
I've heard
US.
of the Sega.
And the Game Boy.
Well, hold on. What's the Sega Genesis?
All right, that's enough out of you. Software, of course, we had Tetris and Super Mario Land with the Game Boy coming over. Populous, which was like one of the first God games.
I've seen advertisements for that.
Yeah, Mega Man 2.
Mega Man 2
came to North America.
My God.
DuckTales.
What was that? A television show? I thought it was a television show after that, but it wasn't.
Came on the regular Nintendo, and Golden Axe, and many other games. The interesting thing about gaming, like if you go back in time like this, is that they don't really know specific release dates for games because that wasn't like a thing that happened at the time, and so you could have ran into a situation where like, you know, your buddy across the country, like he could have had a game that wasn't supposed to be out that you didn't think was going to be released for like a weeks, because just how like if they just got the shipment before, like there was no like don't sell before
no
this
street dates,
date.
yeah.
They would just sell it as soon as they got it. Yeah, it's really interesting. And like magazines like were writing about stuff, but it just wasn't the same as it is today with like release date hype and, you know, building up to a specific day and taking off work so you can play the game all day and all that stuff. Staying home from school. The engine that it used, I believe, was a custom engine. I couldn't find anything like in particular about it. So let's go into like a little overview of the game. So the game starts in an autumn night 3 years ago, with a 15-year-old boy is on the run from the police. And essentially you're on the run and a man steps in who you learn to be a private detective. He kind of takes you like under his wing, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to be a detective?" And that's how the game starts. And that is dumb.
It's like you're not even on the run, you're just out and the police see you and are like, "What are you doing out here?" And then you decide to run and they decide to chase you because you run. It's like, what?
Yeah, and we'll go into the plot. I'll put the spoilers tag on whenever we get there because the game is like all plot basically.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about how like the game, you know, like how it behaves and like what mechanics are available to you. So you get to, the player basically chooses different commands from a menu. You have travel, which allows you to go to different places. Call/engage, which allows you to like reach out to people that could be nearby. Talk, which lets you talk to the person in front of you about, and then you get a list of topics that you get to pick from. Look/examine, and I'm not saying this like as if like it's like one of those words. It is literally like look/examine, right, in the menu. It's really bizarre. And that allows you to either like look around at your surroundings or a specific item, or you can click on like a very specific thing. And they teach you this in the beginning of the game, and it's very frustrating how they teach you about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we will talk about that. You also have show, which lets you show an item to a person. Take, pretty self-explanatory. Open, also pretty self-explanatory. And end investigation, which you use for saving the game, which they don't really tell you. And it has another purpose.
Yeah.
Which they will force you to do later on that is never used again in this game, which is very frustrating.
Basically, everything has like a general idea behind it, a general use, as well as like some other purpose that is not consistent at some point. And it's just, it's terrible.
Yeah. Character dialogue is displayed in a message box at the bottom of the screen. Commands are only listed in situations where they can be used. It's not entirely true, but you know, like some
are filtered out. Like if there's nothing to take, they don't have the take option there.
Yeah.
For example, or if you don't have any items to show.
And like I mentioned before, some of the commands require you to place a cursor over a specific item to interact with it. And there's also certain points in the story where you will be asked questions, and you have to scroll through like a document, like a dictionary kind of, and pick like who you think the answer is. And we can go more into detail of that whenever we give our opinions, because that was also frustrating at times and just dumb. But is there anything about the game, like, you know, how it is, how the gameplay works, etc., that you'd like to touch on before we dive into the plot?
I liked the like anime like characters.
Yeah.
And how they're animated and how they like respond to what you're, how you're talking to them. I think it looked really cute. Like I'm used to like either a static image, like I'm thinking of what's the Phoenix Wright, where they don't really kind of do a lot, or it's like pixel art. But this was like just full on animated images that look like little anime characters. It's cute. I
did like some of the background stuff that would have, like you'd be in a scene, like even as early as like being in the coffee shop with the detective. There would be other people in the background, like, doing their own thing that had nothing to do with what was going on, but it was just kind of, like, adding some little spice to the scene that was kind of cool.
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely. All right, let's throw on that spoiler tag, and I do want to say, if you do plan on playing this game, it's a very, very heavy story game. Like, if you're going to play it, I would not recommend listening to the spoilers, because there's no sense in even playing the game, I think.
I would recommend listening to the spoilers and not playing the game.
Oh.
Okay, so let's go in. Let's break it down. I kind of wrote like some little cliff notes here, chapter by chapter. So we'll just go through like the chapters slowly until we get to the 11th chapter in the end. Just covering some of the highlights. So chapter 1, you're a detective. You get a phone call about a death of a freshman schoolgirl named Yoko Kojima, or Kajima. I don't know how they say it, but I'm going to say Kojima. And during chapters 1, 2, and 3, you are trying to... basically, that case of the schoolgirl is given to you, the junior detective, because the senior detective that took you on, he has to take some other case, which you learn... I believe he takes on like the cold case that kind of opens back up, right? Mm-hmm. Is that true? The Kaneda case? Yeah. Kaneda. So in Kaneda. So in chapters 1, 2, and 3, you learn about the Kaneda case. You also learn about the ghost tale, which is the girl who stands behind.
Which is the dumbest name for a ghost story ever.
Well,
I get it.
It makes sense.
But also, it's a really stupid name.
It's also like a translation...
I know.
Thing,
it's stupid.
Yeah. So, as the chapters go on, chapter 4, you, and during chapters 1 through 3, you're like, talking to different students and teachers and faculty and stuff like that, trying to understand more about, like, who could have done this murder.
Who could have done this?
Chapter 4.
Do we want to go into, like, what the lore, like, what the whole rumor is about the girl who stands behind?
That's chapter 4.
Okay.
Yep. So chapter 4, you learn about the girl who stands behind Ghost Story, and about a new character called Shinobu Asakawa. And Asakawa is she was murdered as part of the Kaneda case. Missing. Oh, okay. Missing as part of the Kaneda case.
Yeah, never confirmed if she was murdered or not.
You also get to talk to a teacher called Miss Hayama, and she admits that she started the rumor when she was a student at the school, which is really weird. A lot of these teachers were previously students at the school. They just happen to stay around just conveniently,
That happens in real
Imagine
life.
like having a fellow student get murdered and then being like, yeah, I think I want to work here.
They weren't murdered. She went missing.
Oh my
She
God.
was murdered.
Oh my.
So, that's you learn about. I guess we can start talking about the ghost story now if you want to. Was there anything you want to add specifically about it? Don't ruin the end of it. Well, because we're getting there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the general like Bloody Mary kind of idea of if you're in the bathroom alone or something like that, or playing games at night. Everyone has a different spin on it, but that when you're alone at night and it's somewhere secluded, she'll appear behind you and it's some girl covered in blood, and that's generally the whole idea of it.
Yeah,
right?
There wasn't much to it.
Yeah, that's kind of it, basically.
And so it's like, you could come up with a much better name for that than The Girl Who Stands Behind, right? I don't know. That's just such a...
You're asking a lot.
I am. I'm asking a lot.
I don't know.
Also, like, during chapters 1 through 3, I forgot to mention that you meet Ayumi, and she is a friend...
Adorable.
Of...
She's adorable is what she is.
She is adorable, but she's friends of Yoko Kojima, and she explains that they had this little like detective club going on, and you also learn about how it starts to unfold how Yoko Kojima was behaving in like a very strange way, and she was like investigating the girl who stands behind. She got like really into it, and we're gonna unfold and unpack a little bit of that here in a bit. Chapter 5, though, you catch the janitor, Tazaki, eavesdropping on your conversation. He is someone that you've interviewed previously about the murder, and you find that like he's acting a bit weird. At the end of chapter 5, Ayumi comes to your office and she gives you some coffee, but she drugs you, making you pass out. Yeah, and she writes a little note about how she's gonna track down Tazaki herself, and the reason why she drugged you is because she asked to help you, and you're like, no, because your character really cares about Ayumi. He's crushing hard.
I know, every time you look at her, he has a little heart that shows up in the text.
He does the same thing with the female police officer when you go to like visit the police station, and apparently there's a fake game over screen there. If you look at specifically her chest 3 times. I found this in the secret section.
Oh my
lordy. And apparently
lordy.
she like gets you in trouble and you get a fake game over screen.
Love it.
In chapter 6, Ayumi tracks down Tazaki. You find out like where Tazaki is. He's at his mother's house. Then he takes Ayumi hostage on a cliff, and he confesses that he gave you a fake alibi. And this is the section where you have to quit the investigation for the first time, and it's annoying because you haven't had to use that mechanic in this way, but now all of a sudden you do.
You're like, oh, I'll stop investigating. Just let her go.
Yeah.
That's your moment to go and save her.
And then,
well, I didn't know you had to do it. It told me to do it by highlighting it yellow.
Yeah. Oh, eventually it tells you because it's like you clearly don't understand what I'm trying to tell you, so let me highlight it for you. Then in the next chapter, you start to learn about like why, like Tazaki's alibi is wrong, and you get to talk with the principal. How do you say his last name? You think Urabe? He admits that he lied about the alibi, and you also learn that everyone really respects the principal.
Oh my god! To an annoying degree.
Yeah, like he can do no wrong. Like he is like
he looks like a movie star.
They say all kinds of stuff like that. He's attractive, that he's like really smart, that he's like super like I don't know, just an awesome person, and he would never do wrong. And you also learn that a teacher called Mr. Habino, he really, really respects the principal. Chapter 8 and 9 happen, and I have some bones to pick about this chapter.
Why this chapter in specific?
Because, so in this chapter, you learn more about Shinobu, Urabe, and Goro. Goro he was the son of the, from the Kaneda case, he's the son of one of the suspects that killed himself, right? No, he's the son of the guy. I think he was the son
of the guy who was
murdered.
Yeah.
Yes. You find a portrait of Shinobu, and that portrait's been there. And I clicked on it before this chapter, and nothing happened.
Yep.
And that really bothers me because I didn't know that I needed to click on it again.
Yep.
And I was very upset about that. Like, it's been there.
Mm-hmm.
In front of the same guy who's gonna tell you, like who painted it. He could have told you that in chapter 4 or 3 or whatever. Anyway.
It wasn't important then, Tyler.
Yeah, why are you asking these questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's nothing to point you to go check it again, which is very frustrating.
Anyway, you go to the painter's house. You learn that Yoko and Shinobu are cousins. Then, what?
Totally it was totally random. I wasn't expecting that because it didn't matter to me.
Well, it mattered a little bit because they look so much alike.
Yeah,
and people talked about like, oh my god, they look exactly the same. And so at first I was like, is this some sort of like spiritual thing? And then they were like, oh no, they were just related.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of weird. You're just like
it was like it could be a supernatural thing, and then it was just like no, they're just related. That's all.
Of course they are, right? Goro, the son of the guy who was murdered, gets murdered, and you go to the murder scene and you find a pen with the initials TU, which match the initials of two characters.
I think 3 by the end.
Yeah, 3 by the end, but we only know about 2 right now. Two characters, which is Tsuruhiko Uchida, who was the primary suspect of the old murder case. He's the guy who killed himself. And then Tadashi Urabe, which is the principal. Now we're going on to chapter 10. You learn that Shinobu's friend had the last name of Uchida as well. You also learned that friend is a boy. And you also learned that it is Tsuruhiko's son. The son turns out to be Tetsuya Habino, the guy who respects the principal so much.
And who was super shocked to see that Yoko had died.
Yes.
And never talks to you. Just says ... every time.
Every time, yeah.
So much.
Then you go to talk to Habino, and this is like the first time that you get to really like have a conversation with him. And he just explodes on you, tells you how much he hates the Kanedas. He gets upset that you think he could possibly be the murderer. Stupid. And that's kind of it. And you're like, okay. And you get like a little freaked out. I also didn't mention that the art teacher like fakes you out halfway through the game.
Oh my god, that freaked me out.
So stupid. God. All right, then chapter 11 happens, and this is when everything starts to wrap up. So it's been everyone that you talk to about the principal just keeps saying like, oh, he's on a business trip. He's on a business trip. That's why he's not here. He's on a business trip because you're like trying to talk with him about what's going on because you're trying to get to.
Also, what principal goes on a business trip?
Dude, this one for some reason.
And also, he just sold his house for some reason.
Oh, who knows why? You break into his office after a phone call.
It was unlocked.
No, you kick it. You kick it open. I'm pretty sure.
That was later.
We're at that later point.
I thought. Okay, keep going.
We're at the point where someone calls the office and they're like,
"Oh, that's right, yeah." And they're like, "He did it."
Yeah, they're like, "It was him." And so you go. You're like, "We're gonna go find him and figure out what happened." And then they go there. They have to kick open the door, and then you find out that he committed suicide. He left like a suicide letter, and he confesses in that letter that he is the killer.
He takes responsibility for every murder.
Every single thing that happened. He's like, "I'm a serial killer. It was me." Etc. And at this point you're like, okay. But then you learn that no, it was Habino, he was the killer.
Well, I liked how he did it. He was like, it's impossible for the principal to be the murderer for all these. And you're like, okay, how do you know that? He's like, because I was.
Ha ha ha, it was me this whole time. Oh, go ahead, Austin, sorry.
Basically, like, he killed the initial guy in the Kaneda case, and it turns out that the principal is his real father and has been trying to be like a real father to him all this time. My bad. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I doing spoilers in the spoiler section?
Yeah.
My bad.
We're almost to the big reveal.
Go.
Okay. Anyway, so you learn about Habino being the killer. He tries to kill you and Ayumi. But what he does is he goes to stab, and there's a mirror behind you. And this mirror's like been kind of showing up in the story a little bit. He destroys the mirror. It cracks open, and behind the mirror is the corpse of Shinobu. And it is revealed that, this is what Austin was talking about, that Habino is actually the son of the principal, and that after the principal lost his wife, he gave up his son, which I believe they said that the child and mom both died before.
Mhm.
So you don't think that he has a son because they say that like the son also died with the mom, but he gave the son to the Uchidas because he wanted the son to have like a mom and a dad and all this stuff. And this to me was kind of weird because this seems like a very like Japanese culture thing, or maybe like a culture thing from that time, like from the 1980s. Because nowadays I feel like a single parent raising a child is like not normal, but it's like, you know, it's a thing that can happen, and success, you know, the child can still be successful and everything. You know what I mean? But you learn that the pin was given to Hibino, and is the original initials of his name, which is Tatsuya Urabe.
And he had changed his name to Hibino because of what had happened in that whole case. His mom didn't want him to be like
associated with
a pariah.
Yeah. And that...
So he has 3 different last names.
Yeah, he does.
He's like rejected by 2 families, or he rejected 2 families.
Yeah. And that is essentially... There is like a little epilogue.
Did they ever explain how Yoko ended up in the river?
Yeah, because he's... gosh.
So, one thing we also forgot is that, like, that I forgot to mention is that whenever... So, the girl's name, I can't think of... Oh, Shinobu she's there, like, at the house whenever the murder happens, like, 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
She runs out, and the principal hits her with his car.
Accidentally.
Huh?
Accidentally,
right. Because she's running across the road trying to run away from this murder, and the principal accidentally... And it just so happens that it's the principal driving the car, and it's his son that's doing the murder.
I think he went there because he knew that his son was going to commit the murder.
I see.
And so he was going to try to stop him.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. That makes sense. Okay, that makes more sense. Then they go back to the school, and what happens is that she's not dead, she's just unconscious, and she stands up, and she looks out the window, and she's like bloody and stuff because she got hit by a car. And that's where the whole like ghost tale like originated from, because the teacher that was outside sees through the window the girl.
Now here's what boggles my mind.
He then kills her, by the way, after that.
He says he kills her. He says that he breaks a pot over her head to kill her.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, they're like, well, no, there was no fracture on the skull, so that didn't happen.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so what did happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really get revealed. The other thing is that is kind of tied to this is that the janitor was plastering this wall, and he like left his tools, and those tools were used for this to like hide that Shinobu's body behind that mirror or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of it, right?
But how did Yoko end up in the river? Because like at the beginning, when Mr. Hibino shows up and sees the body, he's like completely shocked.
Yeah.
Not because he's shocked that she's dead, he's shocked that she's in the river, because somehow somebody put her in the river.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's explained how that happens.
I thought the principal did it.
Is it like,
maybe.
Is it said though specifically, or are you supposed to just like put one and one together?
I thought they said it.
Oh, okay.
Could be.
It was during the reveal when he was like...
I don't recall if we discussed why Mr. Hibino killed Yoko, but she was investigating the Kaneda case as part of her detective club thing, and got a little too close to the truth, and so then he had to kill her.
Figured it out.
Yeah, she figured it out, and so he had to kill her to continue hiding. You know, it's the classic one lie leads to another lie, leads to another lie. Don't lie, kids.
Well, what really sucks is...
Don't murder either, by the way.
This guy kills one dude, and it's like, I mean, apparently this guy wasn't a great dude who got killed, but it's also, you're not supposed to kill people, so like, yeah, bring him to justice. But also, because he killed this one guy, all these other people had to die, bringing him to justice. Like, let's see, Shinobu, Goro, Yoko, the principal.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else?
I think that's it.
That's a bunch of people who died. And some of them really good people who had to die, just like bringing this dude to justice. It's like, maybe we should have just let him live and just not bring him to justice for that one initial murder. I don't know. That a lot of people would have probably been better off.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. All right. Anything more on the? I guess we could talk a little bit about how at the end of the game there is like a little epilogue with Ayumi, and depending on how many hearts you get, there's 20 that you can get. There's some extra little scene that plays, I think, but I did not look it up because I was kind of.
Oh, I did.
Oh, what is it?
Well, she just says like, I really liked working with you. You know, I look forward to working with you more in the future. You know, I know you have my picture, which she had asked for earlier in the game to have back, and he said no. And then she was like, I want you to keep it. And then like, I don't know, she said something with like put a little heart at the end of her text, and then he responds by just like 6 hearts, like a little thinking text bubble.
They love each other.
It's cute.
All right, spoilers tags are coming off unless you guys want to say anything else.
I thought I did. I can't think of it. I liked how, what's his name with the last name Kawai? Hitomi Kawai.
Oh, yeah.
His name is a girl's name. And so you're like trying
Kawhi is supposed to be like super cute, and he's the ugliest dude on the planet.
Oh, I forgot about that dude. He was
wearing those glasses and the wig.
Yeah.
Like, why? I didn't get his whole point.
That guy doesn't really play that much of a role, really.
I think he's just kind of some comedic relief. He also gives you the hookup at the bar.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
But yeah.
Don't get me started on that bar scene with the freaking TV.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the TV. And then the TV at her house, whatever her name was.
Ryoko.
Yeah. And they don't...
Who I thought was going to have some relation with Yoko, but...
Yeah. And they don't translate what the TV says at the beginning, either.
Yeah.
So you're just sitting there like, I don't know Japanese. Like, this is great. But that's how I was. Okay. Spoilers tag coming off. Now let's talk about something that is really interesting about this game, which is the development of this game and who worked on it. This game was written by Sakamoto. Believe it or not.
Huh.
Yeah. I was talking to Tyler about this the other day, but I was like, imagine making this game and then being like, you know what? I'm going to go make Metroid.
And, yeah. And it's insane that, like, he went on to make Metroid from this. I mean, several games, like, not just Metroid, but several. And he even has been quoted saying that, like, this was, like, a turning point in his career, this game, whenever they made it. And this game must have been really big when it first came out in Japan, because it got a lot of releases and re-releases and stuff, which we'll go into. How it, like, all started was that there were some, like investigation, like, detective games, like, already happening. But Gunpei Yokoi basically just, like, went to Sakamoto and was like, please develop a game titled, it was supposed to be titled Famicom Youth Detective Club. And then it ultimately became Famicom Detective Club. There was there was some inspiration for this game from another serial murder case game it was like a text-based adventure game that was on some just PC basically in Japan, that he's quoted like saying like, oh yeah, this inspired me. Before the development really started on this game, Sakamoto handwrote the whole scenarios of the whole game in book form and shared it with the staff, which I think is really interesting. It makes sense, but he said that deep stories like this is the best way to start development. He says is to write a book first, distribute that so everyone is kind of on the same page of the story, and then everyone can think of okay, how do we make this a good game. He said that an Italian horror filmmaker, Dario Argento was a big inspiration as well. But yeah, that's Sakamoto, one of the games he made, and this guy would go on to make games that people just love. It's just insane to think about for me. The music was also directed by Kenji Yamamoto, who did the music for the Metroid series. Did you know that, Austin?
I did not know that.
Yeah. And
Metroid has all its roots in Famicom Detective Club, apparently.
Yeah, so if you're a true Metroid fan, you need to play all the Famicom Detective Club games.
Apparently.
Or if you are a big fan of Famicom Detective Club, you should go play all the Metroid games.
There you go. And the game, because this isn't a Famicom game, this is a Famicom Disk System game, and the Famicom Disk System had an extra sound channel, and they used it for this game.
Huh.
Which is pretty cool. So let's talk about the releases of this. I wrote down some, just little cliff notes of the releases. So the game was released in 2 parts on the Famicom Disk System. We already said this. The original release actually had like a maze that you had to navigate through. They cut that out. Yeah. They cut that out, and whenever they did like a remake for the Super Famicom in Japan only, where they added a personality exam at the end. Mm-hmm. They added a memo system, which is similar to like the document system thing. You guys know what I'm talking about with all the names and yeah. And then they also added the affinity system for Ayumi in the Super Famicom version as well. Then there was a Satellaview episode that was focused only on Ayumi, and I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a little fun fact about that I will reveal later.
I was going to say, this seems like it was right to be on the Satellaview.
Yeah.
Especially since it was in Japan only.
The game was also ported to Game Boy Advance as part of the Famicom Classic games. So like we had like the Nintendo Classic games here, the NES ones, and they got the Famicom ones. And it was the first Nintendo game to get a Sero 15 rating since the Sero was founded. So,
oh, wow.
So it was their, like, at that time, it was their most, like, high rated game on the Sero scale, which is like ESRB for those that don't know. It was ported to Virtual Console, and then it was remade for Switch. And the remake, the one that we played, was not developed by Nintendo. It was developed by this company called Mages. Or is anyone here familiar with Mages? Austin?
I am not.
Is anyone here familiar with the Steins Gate games?
Yes.
They developed those games.
Huh. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just story. No gameplay.
The remake that we played has new graphics, of course, new music, voice acting, and it was initially supposed to come out in 2020, but it got delayed to 2021. As you've probably already assumed by now, this was the first release internationally. And my little fun fact that I was saving is that the person who voices Ayumi, her name's Yuko Minaguchi. She also voiced Ayumi in the Satellaview episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She also voices Grandma in Dragon Ball Z.
Grandma.
That's all it said, I think.
I don't know of a character named Grandma.
I thought you would know, Austin. I don't know.
I've watched like all of Dragon. Maybe Baba.
Maybe.
The witch, but there's nobody named Grandma in Dragon Ball Z I could think of.
I believe it was Grandma. Maybe not, but I wrote that down, but who knows?
I'll have to go look that up.
So how did it review? The original was pretty positive. The remake was pretty average. What did people like in the remake? They really liked the presentation, like the updated visuals. I also really like the visuals, and Moxie, you also mentioned that. They liked that it was faithful to the original. They liked the music, the writing, the text log. And Austin, you mentioned something about the text, but I don't know if you want to cover that in your little review of the game.
The text.
What
did I say?
You said there was like some typos and stuff, or like
yeah,
some bad translation stuff. The things that people didn't really like was the gameplay and the like the trial and error, way of proceeding in the game.
Did you say there's gameplay in this?
And lastly, as always, how did it sell? So this game, we don't know much because it came out this year, but as of June of this year, both games have sold a combined almost 21,000 copies in Japan. So we don't know how much it's sold outside of Japan, only in Japan so far because it's such a new game. But it's really interesting how a game that was released in 1989 for the Famicom Disk System finally made its way over to the States. But my big question is, who asked for this? Who? Where are those fans at?
I feel like with Mother for NES finally coming out over here, and then like the old Fire Emblem games starting to get localized over here, they were like, you know what, maybe we should just start localizing other NES games. But it's hard to say. It may have been a push from Mages, the people who were developing the remaster or the remake, of just like, hey, visual novels are doable in America now. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. I did find footage of like the Super Nintendo version with an English translation, so it may have been that they used like work that had already been done,
like a fan
elsewhere,
translation.
to be like, well, it's basically already done for us. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, that is Famicom Detective Club. Now let's give our takes on it. We should probably do mocks last, so we leave on a high note. And Austin, go ahead and go first. I feel like you're going to be a little lower than me.
Oh my god. Okay, so I will start this off by saying I wouldn't describe myself as a fan of visual novels, but I'm not like, I can enjoy a visual novel. I'm not one of those people who's just like, visual novels are not games. I don't feel that way. I think it's a medium that I don't usually enjoy, but I can enjoy it. And this is like one of the oldest visual novels out there. And like you said, apparently they stayed very true to the original, and I could feel that. Because if you play this right now, I would say this is how you do not make a visual novel today. The gameplay centers around making every interaction a puzzle of what do I need to do next to progress the story, and they're all terrible puzzles. A lot of times you'll need to talk about a specific topic multiple times.
Yep.
To really like exhaust what needs to be said about that subject. You'll need to go look at something specific before somebody will talk to you about it, even though like it doesn't really make any sense why that would progress the story. Just almost every moment of trying to move to the next section was just super tedious, generally involved exhausting all of your options in the menu, and then when you're still stuck, it's like, okay, what do I need to look at now? There was a guide for this game that I started using for the second half, and even that was incorrect about a lot of stuff because no one could figure out what you actually needed to do specifically to move on to the next section. They just were like, we think these were the steps that needed to be taken. Everything else that we did, we think was extraneous, and that wasn't the case. This was awful to play. It was really awful to play, and the story was fine. It wasn't that good. I think the art was really amazing. I agree with you, Tyler. Some of the music was really good. I felt like some of the music would have been more impressive, like as chiptunes.
Yeah.
Like NES or Super Nintendo. I think I would have been impressed with the game more overall if I had played the NES version or the Super Nintendo version, just because like my expectations would be more in line. This is a $35 game.
Yes.
And it's a very bare bones visual novel that has what I would not describe as a great story and not a very engaging type of gameplay associated with it. The translation was not perfect. Like, it was mostly pretty good, but there were definitely typos in a couple of spots that I noticed.
And if you buy it, Nintendo will suggest that you buy the bundle.
If you buy one, they'll offer you a discount on the other, so that you get the same exact price as you would by buying them as a bundle together, because you can buy them both for $60, which I think is still too expensive for these.
God.
But I paid $35 for this game, and I'm really cheesed about that. I know Nintendo like charges a lot for their older games, and generally I'll still defend them, but this is not a game that's worth $35 by any means. I'm really flabbergasted by that. I think maybe what they should have done if they wanted to keep it true to the original was maybe have like a classic mode and maybe an updated mode that makes things make a little bit more sense. I'm not sure. I think that would have smoothed things over a bit. Or maybe
like a
go ahead.
Like a button you press a button and you get like the old music and old visuals, and that would be really cool.
Maybe to play the old version. But I mean, what I meant more was if you're only going to present like the updated visuals and everything, maybe have a more streamlined mode where it's not as horrible to figure out what you need to do next.
Yeah.
To make it, I don't know. I would give this a 3 out of 10.
Woo!
It's got great visuals. The music is pretty good in some spots. This is horrible to play. Normally, I would give like half the score on the technical level. They made typos, and I actively hated my time spent with this game. The design choices and what you need to do in each section was just so backwards and terrible that I'm deducting extra points for that. So, yeah, 3 out of 10 for me. I really could not stand this game. I'm super pissed off that I spent $35 on this. And even if you like visual novels today, I would only say play this game if you really want to see like the origins of where visual novels came from and how terrible they used to be. Otherwise, maybe to set your expectations more in line, find a translation for the NES or the Super Nintendo version and play that instead, because this is just awful.
Dang. Well, we are going up at least. So I've never played a visual novel before, really, unless you count 999. But I don't know. That feels like a bit different. It's like more puzzly. I also was like not very aware of the series. I also did not know that it was going to set me back $35. And so I was very angry about that. But I was trying to be really open. So I was like, okay, $35 for a game I don't usually play, but, you know, maybe I'll like it. Maybe it'll be for me. This game was not for me. Here's some things that I liked. I really liked the art and presentation of the game. I like some of these scenes I would love to have just as like wallpaper. I thought they were just like really pretty, and like the drawing was really good. The music I really, really liked. I jammed out to it quite a bit. Like at one point I had to do some chores and I just like left the game on and just listened to the music. It was awesome. And if you beat the game, you get a little music player, which is pretty cool. And I like how Switch games are starting to do that, like with Mario, Smash, this game. That's cool. But maybe, I don't know, give me a code so I can download that soundtrack or something as well. Anyway, I was a big fan of listening to the Japanese voices. I'm more of like a subs person when it comes to anime, and it just felt like really authentic to me. And I don't know, I like that part of it. Now, what did I not like? The gameplay, if you even want to call it that. This game has very little reason for when you should do like certain actions. Like sometimes I had to like exhaust every option and then I still couldn't proceed. And then I had to like, oh no, this option you're supposed to just keep doing it over and over again. It's like, but there's no hint. Like this was not hinted at me that I needed to bother this person constantly. No, you know, you're just supposed to do that. Like that was very, very frustrating. They did like at times they'll give you hints and like try to like set you up for a pattern for like how you would proceed, but then out of nowhere they would introduce new ways of interaction. 2 things. One is there's a part where you have to leave an investigation. That was very frustrating. We talked about that in the spoiler section. I'm not going to say what happens exactly, but that was very frustrating. The second thing happens in the very beginning of the game, and this I will talk about because I think everyone who's going to play this game needs to know about this.
And it's in the first chapter.
It is. It's in chapter 1. When you have an action to like investigate stuff and like look at, basically like take a magnifying glass and like poke at something. There's a girl there, and who's been murdered, and you need to proceed in this screen somehow. When you put your
you're locked to it. You can't leave the screen.
Correct. When you put your magnifying glasses on certain objects, like scroll over it, it says like what that object is. And there's different objects there, and it tells you like what they are and stuff, and you scan them or whatever. So you would think, okay, one of these objects I just need to scan and it'll be fine. No, that's not what you need to do. You need to scan her neck, and then it will be like, oh, there's hair here that I need to move. That's what you need to do.
And there's no label on it when you move your magnifying glass there to be like, hey, this is significant.
None at all. And I was so frustrated with that because I was like, it's not, like, how am I supposed to know? And then I thought, okay, the whole game's going to be like this. That's what I thought. So I was prepared. No, that's not the case at all. The whole game is not like that. They call out things.
Yeah, it was a very weird way to introduce the look mechanic.
Yes.
Well, I remember that, and I struggled too, because I wanted to look at her neck, and so I kept using look, or whatever it is, look at her neck, and then they kept saying there's hair in the way. And it's like, okay, what do I do then?
Oh, you need to take.
You have to use take.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? I don't want to take her hair. and it's not even her. It's like it's like blouse or something, or like person. It doesn't say hair. It's like I don't want to take anything.
Yeah.
Why do I have to take? So I agree.
So that was frustrating, but overall, I can appreciate this game. Like, I can appreciate the importance of it for Nintendo and their history. I'm excited for the people that were looking forward to like an official localization for this game. Like, that's great. Like, that's awesome. I would love to meet you because I don't know who asked for this. But yeah, all 12
dozens of us.
Yeah, all 12 of you, please like introduce yourself in the comments or something. Come to the Discord, chat with us.
We want to meet you.
Yes, but for people that have tastes like mine, typically align with what I like, what I don't like, I would not recommend this game. It was very okay. I'm not gonna bash on it as much as Austin did. I would give it like a 6. Or like, it's okay. It's extremely okay. I am very sour that I paid $35 for it, but it was an okay experience. I now know that I do not like games like this, and I do not want to play The Missing Air. But I am glad I got to listen to the music. I got to see some really pretty pictures, and I got to hear some Japanese. So, yeah. Which I probably could have just watched anime and would have...
Or played Yakuza.
Yeah. But Mox, bring us home.
Okay. I really like puzzle games and like visual novels and like investigative games. Me and my sister growing up would always play the Nancy Drew, her interactive detective games, which are just point and click detective games. And in those games, we kind of ran into the same issue in this game, which is it's not always apparent. Like, that the story needs to move forward somehow. And at least in Nancy Drew, they like let you move around. They don't lock you into a story screen when they want you to figure something out. And you could go and call someone on the phone and they'll give you a hint.
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, they lock you into a screen until you do the very specific thing that they need you to do to move the game forward. And so, like, my sister and I always had these spoiler-free, like, game walkthroughs pulled up when we play Nancy Drew. And it's nice because they'll, like, give hints. It's called UHS hints. I don't even know if that website's still active. But, like, you click, like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And then it'll say, like, well, have you talked to this person? And then it's like, that wasn't like a more specific enough hint. Like, give me the next thing.
Oh,
and
nice.
They'll be like, have you talked to this person about whatever? I wish we had that for this game, because there were so many points where it was like, okay, I know I need to talk to this person about situation X. And so then I talked to them about A through Z, and I talked to them about X in that process. And then I was like, okay, I talked to them about X as well as A through Z. What next? And then they're like, oh, you got to talk about X again. And it's like, why? We already talked about it. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's my main complaint about the game, but I'm used to it from other games that are similar. But that said, I did like the game. I bought both. I bought the, the $50 or however much it was.
60?
60 for the two of them.
Did you buy it at launch?
No, I bought it for this, when it was chosen.
Okay, so you're one of the dozen.
I didn't know about this game until it was released. I had never heard of this game. I had never thought, oh yeah, we should get that game localized. When they were like, hey, we're localizing this game, I was like, oh, okay, I'll play it.
But it looked interesting enough to you for you to suggest it, is what I mean. Like, you were a bit intrigued.
Yes.
Okay.
I love puzzle games and investigation games and detective games.
I see.
And I in that way, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was mad that I couldn't. There was no amount of like, I could have figured this out. There is no way you could play this game without having to do brute force at some point.
Yeah.
Which makes me mad. You should be able to play a game without having to do that. And so it wasn't
That makes
fair.
me really happy to hear you say that, because I was sitting there just like, when I talk about this to Mox, she's going to be like, you idiot. Of course you were supposed to do blah, blah, blah. So that makes me really happy to hear.
Well, I mean, like certain points there were like it was a conversation, and I was thinking to myself.
Sure, they bring up a topic and then you're supposed to go talk about that topic again. Like, yeah, there were little spots where they would hint at what you needed to bring up again.
Yeah.
But in a lot of spots, they just did not.
No. And I liked the parts where it was a flowing conversation. I remember playing the game thinking to myself, oh, this is something I'm going to say I really liked about this game, where they'll end their little 5-line bit, and then it suggests that you should talk about this other topic, as they kind of meander through the topics. It was cool.
That part
but
was
then, inexplicably, you have to poke someone in the neck 3 times before it moves on. Why? How was I supposed to know that? Or like you have to take this guy's like disguise off. It's
Yeah.
like, why? Why did I have to take that off?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that part.
And he won't let you take it off, so you have to like really badger him about it.
Or the TV and the
TV in the bar
and the second,
was the worst.
And the second customer who's there who won't talk to you unless they...
That TV is also not mentioned in the guide, by the way. If you look up a guide for this, if you use the same one that I did, because there aren't very many guides for this game, that they don't... Even the guy didn't know that you were supposed to look at the TV, because they must have looked at it and been like, well, that obviously didn't do anything.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about, so I must have missed it.
In the bar,
I looked at a guide for the Japanese version, which was pretty much the same. I don't know if that's the guide you guys looked at. But I liked it because it was like, talk to this person about subject X. And it didn't say, like, and now that you've learned about Y, you should go talk to someone about Z. I like that it didn't say that. It would just tell me what buttons I need to click in order to get through the game.
I didn't use the guide because I hate myself, but...
Oh, okay. I have no idea how you finished the game without a guide.
Brute force.
I did that and it didn't matter in some cases.
I got...
You have to brute force again.
I literally got stuck several times, and I almost was like, I'm just gonna ask Austin, or I'm just gonna, like, ask everybody, or I'm gonna look up a guide. And then, like, I would go to, like, I remember there's one part where I was traveling to, like, 4 different locations, and then finally I went somewhere and it was like, do-do-do, because it makes, like, a specific sound.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's the sound! I needed that sound! I got super excited.
Like, instant dopamine rush.
Yes.
But I don't know. There were times when you needed to pass time because you were waiting for something. And I don't understand what triggered it. What triggered the do-do-do? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Was it just literally wasting time? Like, was there a timer in the game?
No, you have to talk to or look at or visit something in a certain order.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Well, I know. The guy didn't even tell me that. But in any case, the gameplay of this game was not its shining point. But I did really like the story. I was surprised about the story ending. Maybe I'm a rube, but I was surprised. And I liked the like stunning, scary, quote unquote scary parts. They were cute. And the characters were great. And there was a lot of funny dialogue that I took screenshots of because I would look at it later and it's funny.
So would you have preferred this as like an anime or a manga or a book or something like that?
No, I want it to be a game, but I want it to be a better game. Way better. Like about, like, I don't know, like 200% better.
Yeah. What would you give it as your score?
I would give it a 6 as well.
Oh, okay.
Because I really did like, I mean, the gameplay was like really good at some points and then really bad at other points. And then I otherwise really liked the visuals and the music was very good, like you said.
Mock's out here just making us play 6s. Or 3s if you're Austin.
I might have given it a 6 if I had played the original version or something like that.
Okay.
But
alright. That was a little dive and our take on Famicom Detective Club. The girl who stands behind.
Still a stupid title, by the way.
I like it. I think it's like those stupid, they have like Mothman. That's as stupid as a name as a ghost story as the girl who stands behind.
Hey,
at least it's more descriptive of like what he is.
Okay.
The girl who stands behind is such a terrible description.
Mothman is a half moth, half man.
There it is. It's all in the name. It's like that's the succinct title that describes what he is.
All right.
If you enjoyed hearing us discuss Famicom Detective Club, the girl who stands behind, and want to join us for the next game, please stay put, because our next regular video game club vote just ended, and it was between No More Heroes 1, Zone of the Enders, The Second Runner, and Advent Rising. And the winner is, with 7 votes, No More Heroes 1. Thank you everyone who voted. Before we move on, No More Heroes 1, it's on Switch, right?
It's on Wii. I
God.
think it's on 360 or no, I guess that might be the second one. It's on Switch, it's on PC, it's on pretty much everything now.
Awesome. Okay.
It got a recent re-release, so.
Awesome. So, so looking forward to that. Thank you everyone for joining. Again, just as a reminder, you can catch us here on twitch.tv/BombchuTV every 2 weeks at 2 Eastern, with the next stream being on September 26th. Or if you can't make the live session, don't worry. You can find the episode up on YouTube and all major podcast services. You'll find it. Now, before we leave, Austin, Bombchu stuff. We got Humble video coming out here shortly. Props.
Yep, within the next day or two, it looks like.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching the Game Pass overview video. That was a little special project of mine that I was hinting at for quite some time now. Finally found the time and found the right, format for how we wanted to do it. All your comments were super helpful and very encouraging. And yeah, I think it's going to be something that we do at least one more time, and we'll kind of go from there. Mox, anything that you want to plug?
No, but I was looking up all the things that No More Heroes is on, and it's on Amazon Luna. What is that?
That is
their streaming service.
That is their streaming service.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Well, I learned something new today. Nope, that's it. That's all I have.
You also learned about TurboGrafx 16.
Well, two very
Which No More Heroes is also on, by the way.
I'll mail you my TurboGrafx 16, Mox.
I'm okay.
Do you have one?
No.
Oh my god.
I'm just doing the whole thing where
God, I'm excited.
if we don't have something, Mox is like, I'll mail it to you. Austin, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Mox, thank you. I know you've been super busy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for playing my game that you guys hated.
Of course. I'm Tyler. This was Video Game Club, episode 32, Famicom Detective Club, The Girl Who Stands Behind. And we're out. I'd like to give a special shout out to Michael Slater, Blake Harms, and all of our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you, and thank everyone for watching.